Hi everyone, it's me, Sandy Cruz of Sandy K Nutrition, Health and Lifestyle Queen. For years now, I've been bringing to you conversations about wellness from incredible guests from all over the world. Discover a fresh take on healthy living for midlife and beyond, one that embraces balance and reason without letting only science dictate every aspect of our wellness. Join me and my guests as we explore ways that we can age gracefully with in-depth conversations about the thyroid, about hormones, and other alternative wellness options for you and your family. True wellness nurtures a healthy body, mind, spirit, and soul. And we cover all of these essential aspects to help you live a balanced, joyful life. Be sure to follow my show, rate it, review it, and share it. Always remember, my friends, balanced living works. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sandy K Nutrition, Health and Lifestyle Queen. Today, this show is specifically for midlife women who have been listening to advice on what kind of workouts to do, to lift heavy, to do hot yoga, to burn off that stress. If you've been told this and somehow it doesn't feel right in your body, or you get injured, or it doesn't do what it's supposed to do, this podcast episode is for you. And most of you know, I come to you each and every week for 6 years now. Passion over profit first. Whatever I am talking about normally comes from lived experiences where I'm just trying to help. I'm just trying to help the world turn inward on their wellness, body, mind, spirit, and soul. I don't have an agenda. I don't have anything else to really prove except I'm a 56-year-old woman with a lot of lived experience. I'm also a registered holistic nutritionist. I have gone through that hero's journey more than once. I've talked about a lot of my own challenges, and it is my passion and my purpose to try to help other women, not to try, to help other women turn inward. So, whatever I speak to you about, it is never from a place of advice, it is from a place of knowledge and really helping you to turn inward to go, this actually makes sense for me. Let me explore this further. So it's never medical advice. It's never saying it's got to be this way or no way. It's just helping you to think about things and think about your wellness from a different perspective. And always, I always say, turn inward first. This goes for social media. The big challenge now is there are so many different voices out there. A lot of them are definitely credible sources, but they don't know you and you don't know them, just like I don't know you. So it's really important that whatever you hear, you actually turn in and say, I'm not sure this makes sense for me. So, most of the stuff that you do here is research based. But again, I don't believe that we are robots. I believe we are all bio individual. And while research is good as a starting point, you have to look at your own situation and what's going on with you and your body and your genetics and just your life in general. What's a big thing you hear from many big influencers out there for women in and around menopause, perimenopause, after menopause. You're told to lift heavy, right? And, what does that signal? And listen, I've heard this so many times before, and I'm going to get into my own story. So often we're told lift heavy, push through pain, being uncomfortable is actually good for you. I've actually heard this from very reputable doctors. And listen, what they're saying is research based because doing that is great for your bones. But I'm going to kind of debunk all of this for I'm going to say different situations that women may be encountering and what possible movement might suit you better at different stages in your life. So, lift heavy, push through pain, ignore fatigue because you just got to push through, right? Treat the body like a machine. And then there's the hot yoga sweat. Okay, so here are some consequences of doing that. Chronic injuries. I'm one of them. And yes, I worked with a personal trainer. And yes, she knew what she was doing. It has nothing to do with her or her skill set whatsoever. Nervous system dysregulation can be a consequence. Hormonal chaos worsening by overtraining. Shame when your body just can't keep up with what everybody's saying you should be doing. So, fitness culture rarely updates expectations for women in perimenopause or menopause, and sometimes even directs you to work harder during these phases. Menopause physiology, it's a different recovery situation, different joints, different nervous system needs. So, we are a unique breed. And even within that category of menopausal women, we're individual within that category because nobody understands what's going on with your stresses. Maybe you're having marriage issues. Maybe you're going through a divorce. Maybe you're having financial difficulties. Maybe you're having difficulties with children. Maybe you're having difficulties with aging parents. Like there's so much that really only you can unpack. So you can listen to this vast universe of wellness, but then you have to really, really narrow it down to what makes sense for you at your stage in life. Menopause is a really big stage, and everybody goes through it differently. Many midlife women, I'm sure you've heard this, will say, I need to blow off steam or I can't sit still. And I want to point this out. I'm not saying you have this. Again, I'm not diagnosing anybody, but I would like you to actually think a little deeper on why. Why can't you sit still? Why do you need to blow off steam by killing it at the gym or doing hot yoga? And I'll get into why hot yoga might not be right for you. So these are often signs of a chronic sympathetic nervous system activation. So everybody should know by now there's parasympathetic and sympathetic. Okay. Sympathetic, think of it this way so that you remember the difference. This is the way I always remember. Sympathetic means you're always sympathizing. That means you're always on. Okay. Parasympathetic is when good things happen, like your digestion is good, you're more calm. So, a lot of women sit in that sympathetic. So, think of it that way. If you're always sympathizing with everything around you, you're always going to be like on, right? You never turn off. So, women who claim intense activity lowers their stress are usually burning off excess adrenaline from a chronically overactivated nervous system, which makes them look unstoppable until they finally crash into exhaustion rather than true relaxation. So there's a difference. And again, I'm not saying this is you. I'm just asking you to think about this for you. So there's a difference between relaxation and exhaustion. And there's a bunch of stuff out there about sleep and how fast you fall asleep. And apparently, if as soon as you pass out, when your head hits the pillow, that might not be a great thing. That might be a signal that you're in that exhaustion, not relaxation. Because I don't quote me on this, but I think the stats are, it should take around 15 minutes or so to fall asleep naturally. So, research shows sympathetic activation rises during perimenopause and menopause and postmenopause. And women with higher stress reactions experience worse hot flashes, worse sleep, more anxiety, and more mood instability. A lot of these ups and downs, ebbs and flows. You're not just kind of, you know, going through your day, right? So there's a bunch you can unpack just with that one little statement. And I recorded a podcast on women in fear and anxiety. I talked a lot about how at menopause, your ovaries are not making all of the hormones. And so they shift to most of your hormones are coming from your adrenal glands. Well, those adrenal glands are doing a lot of work because now they got to add in the sex hormone production. They're also actually still doing their adrenal stuff, right? Which is cortisol, adrenaline. So this is an actual physiological response. So high intensity exercise, and I want you to think about this. Cortisol is not the devil. You hear about this a lot, cortisol this, cortisol that, but when you dig deeper, cortisol is a very important and necessary hormone that is produced by the adrenal glands during periods of stress. But I want you to touch back on, and the way I always look at this, and I'll get into this later too, on how people lived before technology. You would have a situation that would spike your cortisol. Let's say you're a farmer and something's happened to one of your chickens or something, or your sheep or your goat. I don't know. I'm just giving examples. There's that stress, right? It's kind of like that instant cortisol response. You respond to the stress, and really cortisol, you want it to be a gentle ebb and flow during moments of stress. Cortisol is also what gets your ass out of bed in the morning. So when you wake up, that cortisol surge will get you out of bed. So a big sign for you, and you can test this with your own practitioner. Best way to test is not through blood because blood is just a snapshot. You want to get a 24-hour picture of cortisol. Urine is a great way. Some do saliva as well. But when you wake up in the morning, you want kind of that spike of cortisol. You want it to be high. And then you want a gentle, like lowering throughout the day until you get to a restful sleep or prep for sleep. Because if your cortisol's up here and you want to go to bed, it ain't ever going to happen. If any of you have ever had kids who played competitive sports late at night, notice how they're wired. Like my son played hockey, and I think I remembered him being at the rink sometimes until 10 o'clock at night. You think that kid could fall asleep? No, because his cortisol's up here, right? So I want you to think about it in that way because it's just like you ladies who are going to the gym at 6, 7 o'clock. That might not be a great thing for your cortisol. Okay. And if you really want to know what's going on with your sleep, because people say, oh, I sleep fine. I pass out as soon as I hit the pillow and whatever. The only way to really know is to get a reliable tracker. I personally use the Ultra Human Ring. I have used the Fitbit. I have used the Aura Ring. Use whatever it is that resonates with you. And just to kind of see like, am I spending a lot of time in REM? Am I spending a lot of time in deep sleep? Like, where is this sleep? Because I think that might be a good clue if you think one thing but you're really not sure. I don't believe in relying on these trackers. I think we have to always turn in. I always say turn in, my friends, turn in. How do you feel? but a tracker might be a good tool. Okay, back to this. So, high intensity exercise spikes cortisol, which in midlife is linked to worsened vasomotor symptoms. That's all the hot flashes, abdominal fat gain, slower recovery, and increased injury risk. This whole push harder, burn it off, never slow down pattern is biologically mismatched to menopausal physiology. And it can become dangerous when estrogen declines and tissues become more injury prone. So I'm going to pause here for a second. This is where that whole personal trainer, because I once recorded about this. I released a reel on Instagram. By the way, go follow me on Instagram. I'm very active there. Sandy K Nutrition, anywhere you do social media. But somebody said, oh, well, it's your trainer's fault that you got injured. But how is my trainer supposed to know what my estrogen status is? What my cortisol status is? They're doing their best. That's why I don't blame the trainers at all. And during that time in my life, I thought it was a good thing because all these big doctors and influencers are telling you to lift heavy. I'm going to get into that. So, not that long ago, I recorded with a doctor and I asked him about this, about the whole pushing harder. And it was very interesting because his answer was, well, why can't you push hard? More of a, let's get you into a position where you can push hard. In my mind, I'm thinking, no, I'm not a dude and I'm going through menopause. So maybe this isn't the time in my life to push hard. So, this is where, again, I have all the respect in the world for this doctor, but maybe a menopausal woman isn't meant to do that. And I'm going to get into situations where you are, because I know I'm going to get a lot of pushback on this, but just hang with me. So, I had a personal trainer from aged 45 to 54. I'm now 56. I was taught to push, to grind, to lift heavy. My result was chronic wrist and foot. It's actually in my second metatarsal in my toe injury, and they're major bone issues. And my realization was it's not the trainer's fault. It just might have been too much for my physiology at that time. So I have amazing discussions with my mom, who's going to be 80 this year. And we talk about my grandmother and how she used to work on the farm. So I'm actually a Croatian citizen as well as a Canadian citizen. I have dual citizenship. My parents are farmers from old country, Croatia. And my grandmother used to work the land. I get it. Like very few people have a life like that now. But here's what she would do. Sometimes she would lift heavy as working on her own farm, but only what she can handle. Otherwise, she would get help if she couldn't do it. So she would walk, she would move, she would stretch, she would bend. She had different movements throughout the day. She didn't live a sedentary lifestyle. She would take breaks when she was tired, and she would eat only when she was hungry. And I love this, you guys. And even though, or you ladies, even though we can't live exactly as a farmer used to live back in old country, Croatia in 1948, whatever year it was. However, we can try to emulate our movement and live. I actually wrote an article on my Substack, live like a farmer would as best as we can in modern day living. So I really love that whole discussion with my mom. I have these discussions with her often, and I learn so much from both of my parents. And I should note that one of the injuries I have, they call it Freiberg's infarction on my foot. And one of the causative factors of that is repeated motions of possibly, you can't determine exactly, heavy motions that are too much for the foot to handle. Well, I used to leg press 255 pounds and then add my body weight on top. So talk about pushing it. But I never had an injury, but it was like this slow degradation. So, in case if you're wondering, and my wrist, that's another story. But both of these injuries or slow, I'm going to say degradation, because they're both bone issues, but they're not osteoporosis or osteopenia related. But both of them occurred at, perimenopause. So I was around 50, 52. That was when things started to go down in terms of my um, estrogen and obviously progesterone. And I was in full menopause at age 55 of 1 year of no period. So now I'm going to talk to you about a different form of exercise that I've been loving, like loving so much. It's just so powerful for me right now at my moment in my life. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Qigong. And it's a little quieter than a lot of the other different types of exercises. I'm going to get into that too. So, what Qigong says, research wise, for menopausal women. So, clinical trials actually show this. So these are randomized controlled trials. Okay. They show lowering of total menopausal symptom scores, lowering of the vasomotor symptoms, lowering of psychological symptoms, an increase in overall quality of life. The typical research protocol in these studies that I'm talking about are 8 to 12 weeks and 2 to 3 times per week. However, and then they say 45 minutes. However, I am going to note this. The reason they did that is, they had to figure out a measurable way to conduct the research. However, real world effective dose is 10 to 20 minutes, but daily. And it's so easy, you guys. You can find, and I'll give you some tips at the end of where you can look and get free Qigong resources. You don't have to pay a membership. You don't have to go to a gym. You don't have to do anything. Just go on YouTube. Okay. So actually, I'll stop and tell you right now. There's a woman that I absolutely love on YouTube. Her name is Marissa, and she has the YouTube channel Yochi Yoga and Qigong. So I don't do the yoga stuff, but she kind of maybe blends it a little. You'll see what I mean. I am going to talk about the difference between yoga and Qigong, but Yochi is spelled Yoqi. She's amazing. So I've been doing her stuff every single day. Okay. So back to Qigong. Mental health and sleep. The studies show lowered anxiety, lowered depression, increased sleep quality, and lowered sympathetic activation. Remember what I was talking about, parasympathetic versus sympathetic? Sympathetic is you don't want to be there for too much too long because it's like you're going all over the place and your nervous system is always activated. By the way, when you're in that state, you're never going to have optimal digestion. You can't be in that state and have good digestion. You could take all the probiotics in the world, my beauties, but it ain't going to help you if you don't do the action to support whatever it is that you're taking or eating. Just saying. So, strength, balance, and fall risk. Obviously, you're going to have an increase in lower limb strength from Qigong. an increase in static and dynamic balance, and a lower fall risk. So the mechanism is slow shifting, weight transfer, and it's like this conscious movement. Now, Qigong does not directly support and build bone density. I want to note that. It's not going to be everything, but it supports bone health in an indirect way by improving balance, so fewer falls. It will improve your posture, so better load distribution. It improves muscle activation, so supports your joint stability. It regulates cortisol, so that protects the bone turnover. You see what I'm saying? So it's best used as a foundation for nervous system regulation, a bridge back into safe strength training. So maybe if you want to keep doing that bone building stuff, which I think is very important, I do believe, just like what I was using my grandma as an example, we do have to lift heavy sometimes. But Qigong is going to help you have a really strong foundation in order to do that. Cool, huh? Systemic reviews include mind body exercise in peri and postmenopause. So, consistent improvements in psychological symptoms, some improvements in bone turnover markers, moderate evidence quality, but consistent positive direction, modern evidence. I don't know if I said that right. Qigong specific reviews are the strongest effects on mood, sleep, and quality of life, very low injury risk. And I am also going to say, even though this isn't in the research, I can tell you that it's going to help with your flexibility. And I remember being on a call with this doctor. She's amazing, Dr. Elizabeth Yurth, Yurth. And yes, she's a big advocate of lifting weights and everything. But you know what she said once on a call, and I thought it was really very cool, is that we were talking about aging. This was with her and myself and Zora Benamu of Hack My Age. And you know, she said flexibility is maybe more important than even increasing bone mass or strength, bone strength by lifting heavy. Think about that. Flexibility is incredibly important as we age. So qigong will support this as well. And it's great because you're doing the stretches, like that's what helps with the flexibility. So I just want to know that. So let's compare qigong to tai chi. So, Qigong, short, repeated movements, symptom specific forms, stress, digestion, heat, grounding, energy, how to improve your Qi. This is what Qigong is all about. It can be done seated. It can be done every single day because you can do micro practices. I'm doing it now twice a day. And it's nervous system first, choreography second. There's breath work involved. There's so much involved in Qigong. Now, Tai Chi, longer sequences. Here it says 24 to 108 movements. You've seen it. Higher cognitive load. You have to really think about what you're doing. More hip and knee loading. So if you've got bad knees, I mean, you might want to start with Qigong. If you want to do something more intense, then maybe move to Tai Chi afterwards. Um, so there's more of a lineage with martial arts. So it's less therapeutic specificity. So less of the whole therapeutic side, more about the martial arts and it is about calming the mind though. It's great for balance, but it's slower to learn. It's harder to learn Tai Chi. And then, there's a lot of misleading stuff going on about Tai Chi right now, which that's kind of turning me off a little bit. I'm not a big fan of the marketing where, you've got some guy who's really, really shredded And there's an ad. He's like, my wife, she dared me to do Tai Chi walking every day to get into better shape. And I did. And this is what I look like now. I was like, come on. Like, come on. Don't fool the average person that this is going to be them. So, this is why I think Qigong wins for menopause. Faster regulation, less joint strain, easier to personalize, more accessible during fatigue, brain fog, pain, burnout, like a lot of us women have. Let's do a little comparison between Qigong and yoga now. You're going to probably be surprised about this because I have nothing against yoga. I did yoga way, way back. I did yoga. I was 40. How old was I? I was 40. And this was the year that my daughter was diagnosed with cancer. And I broke my foot 2 days before she was diagnosed. So I had a lot of issues. And that was the time that I tried gentle yoga. So I'm not against yoga. I'm more against this club culture around it. But if you look at the history of yoga, it's very beautiful. So, Qigong, breath led, nervous system down regulating, joint friendly, no extreme ranges of motion, although you can kind of do whatever you feel comfortable with. No heat stress. I'm going to talk about that in a second. No competitive culture. This is kind of what I was saying about yoga culture. It's designed for energy regulation and not performance. And there's a lot of improving your chi and your energy flow and, just working with the earth's energy. I love this. I love this. And this is also why I combine Qigong with walking in nature, of course, without headphones. You can listen to my podcast afterwards. Listen to it while you cook. Anyway, yoga, um, as commonly practiced in the West, trendy, performative, aesthetic driven, often strength oriented, many poses that load the wrists. We know I got a bad wrist, shoulders, hips, hot yoga. Here's what people don't even realize. Hot yoga, it equals heat stress, which actually spikes your cortisol. And what was I just talking about? The sympathetic versus the parasympathetic nervous system? You're you could essentially be exacerbating your issues by doing hot yoga. I never got the hot yoga thing. And many classes will push flexibility beyond joint safety. Injury rates significantly higher than Qigong or Tai Chi. So yoga can be a poor fit if we're looking at those categories for menopausal women. And again, don't come at me. Maybe you do it differently. I'm just talking about the generalization of it. Heat can worsen these vasomotor symptoms. Overstretching destabilizes already shifting connective tissue. Wrist loading poses aggravate common midlife injuries. The wrist thing is pretty common with a lot of women in menopause. High intensity flows spike cortisol, which means it can actually worsen your sleep, your weight, and your mood. Cultural pressure to go deeper encourages that whole self override, right? Like, oh, I just got to push. Now, this is my favorite part. I'm going to bust some myths about all of these different movements. Okay. Myth number one, you need to lift heavy or it doesn't count. The truth is, midlife physiology needs regulated load, not maximum load, so you hurt yourself. Nervous system dysregulation equals poor recovery and injury risk. So, guess what? Work on the nervous system first, right? And if you've got a shit ton of stress going on in your life, because here are the facts at this age, it can get really, really stressful. There's a lot of things going on with midlife women a lot of the time. We're called the sandwich generation for a reason, and a lot falls on us. So if you've got a lot going on, I'm not saying don't lift heavy, but maybe take a break from, killing it at the gym with heavy weights if you're going through a really stressful time. Maybe do some more gentle resistant band work, something like that to, keep those bones doing what you want it to do, which is, stay strong. Now, myth number 2. This is my favorite to talk about because, I am a practitioner and I think there's a lot of misleading information that hot yoga detoxes you. Detox is a big topic in the wellness world. So the truth is, it's heat stress plus cortisol plus joint laxity. So that's actually not benefiting menopausal physiology. So intense hot yoga does not detox the body. And research shows that when you combine extreme heat with strenuous movement, the body enters that sympathetic stress response, and that in and of itself will reduce detoxification capacity rather than enhance it. Remember how I was saying if you're in that sympathetic nervous system state all the time, it's hard to digest properly? Well, guess what else it's hard to do? It's hard to detox. So you're putting yourself in extreme high stress and you thinking just because it's hot yoga, it's going to detox you. I encourage you to look at the research. Okay. Instead of just listening to that yoga instructor that's, maybe not got the knowledge of a menopausal woman or detox patterns. And that's the other thing. Nothing against fitness instructors, but typically they may have 1 or 2 courses in nutrition. They may not be integrative health practitioners. They're just a yoga instructor. Sorry, no, they are a yoga instructor. I don't want to minimize what they do at all. I'm not doing that. But what I'm saying is look at what actually happens in the body, the physiology of it. Detox happens in the liver and in the kidneys, not really in the sweat. And studies show that sweat contains less than 1% of actual toxins. So detoxification is handled almost entirely by hepatic and renal pathways. So you want to have a healthy liver and a healthy kidneys, and that's really what's going to be helping with your detoxification. Lymphatic, all of these things actually are so supported with Qigong. You can even do liver loving Qigong. It's amazing. Kidneys, where you lightly tap on your kidneys or you rub your kidneys. It's amazing. So that's what you want to support, not hot yoga. Hot yoga is not going to do it for you. Heat plus exertion equals sympathetic activation. I already said that. So research on heat stress demonstrates that high temperatures combined with physical strain under a cortisol spike and a fight or flight response is not a detox state. Under heat stress, blood flow is diverted away from those detox organs. So during intense heat exposure, circulation is prioritized to the skin for cooling and muscles for movement, while blood flow to the liver and kidneys decreases. So, really, what it's doing is it's temporarily reducing the efficiency of detoxification. So a calm heat does not equal a stressed heat. I'm going to repeat that. A calmed heat does not equal a stressed heat. And I'm going to give you an example. Far infrared sauna, where you're just sitting there, just sweating away, versus an intense yoga session under extreme heat, hot yoga. They are not one and the same. Sauna research shows that passive heat can support the pathways because the body stays in a parasympathetic system, parasympathetic mode. Okay. Hot yoga is the opposite: active heat, muscular strain, elevated heart rate, which shifts the body into stress physiology, not calming physiology. So, relevance, menopause. Heat is a known trigger for vasomotor symptoms, and cortisol dysregulation is already common in midlife. So, adding heat stress, intense movements could give you more hot flashes, more sleep disruption, more injury risk, and more of that sympathetic overactivation. So, the bottom line is hot yoga creates heat stress, not detox. Sauna, calm heat, helps with parasympathetic. It could be more supportive, although when I was having intense hot flashes, it didn't resonate with me to go into my sauna. I just didn't want to. So I listened to my body and I avoided it. I might slowly be integrating that back in, but we'll see. So, hot yoga, stressed heat, sympathetic, counterproductive. Boom. Go look up the research. Myth number 3. That was a long one, but I have to dispel these myths about detox. I just have to do it. So, Tai Chi walking will get you shredded. Okay, I already talked about this. No one gets cut from slow walking. Sorry. It's a marketing gimmick and it just doesn't make sense. Myth number 4. Qigong is too gentle to matter. Ooh, this is a big one. The truth is that there are measurable research improvements in symptoms, mood, sleep, balance, and strength. Gentle does not equal ineffective, my beauties. And if you have a sleep tracker, try it. If your sleep has been really bad, then do Qigong, start doing it. Do it every single day, maybe twice a day. Don't do it later. It can be invigorating because remember, Qi is energy, right? Although there are some that you can do that are slower that are supposed to help with sleep, I have found I can only do it morning and afternoon, and then I don't want to do it at night. You do what makes sense for you, of course. And if you have any kind of sleep tracker, see if your sleep improves. Test, just use your own self as a test. So, myth number 5. Here's the last myth. If it's not intense, it's not exercise. The truth is that midlife women need nervous system regulation, joint friendly movement, consistent micro practices, energy cultivation, not depletion, things that cultivate that positive energy and that chi. And remember, a lot of it kind of goes down to your mindset. So, I would like to just conclude because this is such a fun podcast for me because I've made those mistakes and I've got injuries and I've been told by an orthopedic physician that I'm going to need surgery someday. Like we're talking fusing the bone because of what do they call it? Osteochronosis, something like that. Bone death. Great. This is from me just pushing myself too much during a time when I should have not. How about that? So let's create a new paradigm shift for midlife movement together. Number 1 is whatever you hear on the internet, on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, wherever, whatever you hear, even what you're hearing here today, you're going to first turn inward and you're going to see if there's resonance with you. Does this make sense for you? This is before anything else, before what anyone else tells you to do for your movement. Okay. I am going to say you have to move. Like we have to move. I look at my dad, he's going to be 89 in April, and he's got pretty intense arthritis in his knees. He's already had one knee replacement in his shoulders. You know what he said to me? And I love my dad. He's the best person in this world. He said to me, yeah, I have pain, and I have pain if I sit. and I have pain if I go on my bike, but I go on my bike and I go for a ride and I talk to people and I see the world, and it just brings me so much happiness. And I'm like, that's real wisdom. So the new paradigm is number one, turn inward. What makes sense for you? Regulation before exertion. Ensure that your nervous system is regulated. You're not always like in that parasympathetic state, and then you think you have to add more exertion to a state that you haven't been able to regulate yet with. And by the way, a lot of it relates to mindset. So, what are you doing for your mind? What are you doing for, quiet practices? What are you doing for that? Then you can add in movements like Qigong. You can add in journaling, add in whatever works. But that parasympathetic, sympathetic nervous system regulation is key for menopausal women. Consistency before intensity. So, like I was saying, I believe, and I was mentioning my grandma, we have to move every day. And I do believe that consistency is key in whatever movement resonates with us. But when we move every day, it's actually great for the body, the mind, the spirit, and the soul, all of it. Joint integrity before aesthetics. I have, listen, I was 25 once before. I had a body of a 25-year-old. I don't follow 25-year-olds because I don't resonate with the aesthetic. I don't resonate with performative culture. I just don't. And what resonates with me is to keep myself healthy before any kind of aesthetic. Energy cultivation before calorie burn. Okay, so many of you are still in that mindset of, I got to burn these calories. Let me jump on my treadmill. And, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with going on the treadmill. But if you're trying to burn calories versus worrying about your energy flow, you might be kind of missing the point there. Daily 10 to 20 minute practices and maybe occasional 45-minute workouts whenever you feel like you've got it in you. I do in the summer often, I will do at least one 45-minute walk a day. And that walk is not to burn calories. That walk is actually more about my daily practices for mindset and quiet time and being in nature. Qigong is not a trend. I want you to look it up. It's more of a lineage. It's accessible, safe, and deeply effective. It's the antidote to the push harder culture. And I believe it is the missing piece for women who have been injured, burned out, or misled by fitness marketing. So if you made it all the way to the end here, I am going to ask you to share this with a friend, to rate it, review it, follow me wherever you are listening to this, because this is the stuff that keeps me going. And the more of you that download my content, follow me on all of my other channels, share it, rate it, and review it, Spotify, podcast, comment if you're watching it on YouTube, then more people are going to see this stuff, and it's real, and it's always from the heart for me. So thank you. Have a great week. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Be sure to share it with someone you know might benefit. And always remember, when you rate, review, subscribe, you help to support my content and help me to keep going and bringing these conversations to you each and every week. Join me next week for a new topic, new guest, new exciting conversations to help you live your best life.